The recent global events have made it imperative for organizations to digitize and innovate faster than ever before. As you'll all agree, accelerating digital transformation opens a Pandora's box of critical infrastructure and cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kavya R. Chavali, and I'm absolutely delighted to be your host today. In fact, there's a very popular saying that there are decades when nothing happens. And then there are weeks when decades happen. If we take a look at the last 18 to 20 months, I do believe that the last 18 to 20 months is like a true testimony to this quote. But at the same time, we did witness that we turn out to become more resilient, or for that matter, we managed to pivot, we managed to adapt and adopt. And somewhere that is what has brought us together to be a part of a very pertinent conversation today. So on that note, welcome to the first ever IBM Partner Cybersecurity Summit. Today, in fact, all of you are joined virtually by 350 leaders in IT and cybersecurity from across more than 5 cities in India. And I think somewhere that's the beauty about connecting rather digitally is that it's boundaryless. And I think there's a beauty in that too. So let the conversations continue. Now, IBM Partner Cybersecurity Summit is a first of its kind forum presented by IBM that brings together enterprise IT leaders and CISOs, industry experts, and thought leaders to deliver valuable insights and comprehensive updates on the latest in cybersecurity. I do promise all of you that it's going to be an exciting and an inspiring day. Now, after a testing period of almost 2 years with mass vaccinations running in full stride now, India is entering into an era of hope. However, in these 2 years, some things have changed in the way we live and work, perhaps forever. Remote work is now an acceptable norm more than an exception. There has been a widespread increase in hybrid cloud adoption. More people today are using online transactions to complete purchases. Amidst all this, how do you minimize the impact of a breach? We are bringing together industry experts, leading clients, and a variety of resources to help you enhance your cybersecurity posture. And let's see how. So with that, we have a well-planned agenda for the next 2 hours with carefully chosen topics that'll help you put security everywhere. A fantastic lineup of speakers await you, and you have an opportunity to hear from thought leaders, CISOs, and cybersecurity experts. We, in fact, will be starting with a keynote, which goes live in about 3 minutes. In the keynote, you will hear from Prashant Bhatkal, country leader for IBM Security Software for India, South Asia. We will have a strong representation from key IBM security ecosystem partners, Crayon Software, Inspira Enterprises, Logic Systech, and BM Info Trade. In addition to sessions, you can also please go ahead and explore the booth area. What's more, you can actually go ahead and request one-on-one meetings with seasoned cybersecurity leaders. So all that and more happening for the next 2 hours, and I'm going to urge you all to make the most out of this experiential setup that we have created for you. So as you can see, there's a lot that you can do in the next 120 minutes. So let's get going. So it's time to take your excitement forward, and it's time for the grand opening, the keynote session. The spread of data, applications, and users everywhere, and migration of workloads to cloud has rendered traditional perimeter-based approach to security ineffective. Now, if you take a look, the powerful combo of Zero Trust and XDR can actually help security teams strengthen resiliency. Is it time for Indian enterprises to go fearless with Zero Trust and XDR? Well, that's exactly the question. And if that is the question on all of your minds, then that is exactly what Mr. Prashant Bhatkal will be discussing. In fact, Mr. Prashant leads the IBM Security software business for India South Asia region and comes with over 25 years of experience, most of them in the information technology domain. He is responsible for all the strategy and operational matters related to IBM security in the region that includes Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. And he's someone who's very passionate about maintaining healthy customer relationships. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's deep dive into this very important keynote coming your way right here, right now.
Thank you, Kavya, for a warm introduction. Hello and a warm welcome to all of you for our partner Cybersecurity Summit. My name is Prashant Bhatkal and I lead the IBM Security software business for India, South Asia. One of our key reasons for us being successful is our partners. Like us, our customers have also shown faith and trust in your skills. Today, major share of our business is through partner ecosystems, and we are seeing this growing multifold. IBM Security's Partner Summit is a platform for our partners to talk about their experiences, skills, innovations that they bring to our customers. With that, I want to discuss some of the priorities going forward for IBM in 2022. Our major focus will be around XDR, that is extended detection and response, and around zero trust. I would like to share some fact checks, right? Today, it takes about 300 days to identify and contain a breach. This was highlighted by the latest report in 2021 survey done by Ponemon Institute on cost of data breach. Isn't that amazing? Another fact check, according to the latest survey, 31% of the organizations have adopted XDR and 76% agree that adopting XDR has strengthened their organization's cyber resiliency. Amazing. As you all know, IBM QRadar has been in the Gartner's Leaders Quadrant for last 12 consecutive years, and it's a proud moment for all of us. Our latest acquisition of Reactive, an AI-based EDR platform, our XDR is now more robust and more stable. Fact check. We recently conducted a survey to understand how many tools security team needs to deploy today on an average. And you would be surprised with the response. 83% of the respondents said that they had to use more than 20 tools. And about 30% of them said that they had to use more than 50 tools. Mind-boggling. To address some of these challenges our customers are facing using multiple tools, IBM XDR offers all core XDR functions under one platform, that is IBM Cloud Pak for Security. This contains EDR, NDR, SIM, SOAR, and threat intelligence under a flagship QRadar brand to modernize our SOC. Before I move to Zero Trust, I wanted to again talk to you about some of the feedbacks that we've recently received from some of the customers where we conducted some roundtables for them. And I wouldn't name the customer, but specifically one of the customers said that recently they have seen our partners are delivering more value to them with the kind of skills and knowledge that they bring onto the table, which is amazing. And it was a proud moment for all of us. So thank you. Thank you very much. Now let's talk about zero trust. Why zero trust is gaining such traction in our customers, right? One of the trends that we have seen post pandemic is that there is no more a perimeter available for our customers to monitor their users and their workload. This is especially relevant today as there is a great considerable amount of digital interaction during the pandemic. Fact check. Did you know that 4.2 billion UPI transactions were done in October alone? mind-boggling again. So to tackle these perimeterless environment, it becomes imperative to build a robust security identity. That is where zero trust plays a key role. Never trust, always verify is the mantra. It assumes that every entity, connection, or endpoint is a threat. It can help organization modernize operations, allow security to become business enabler by dynamically adapting to users, data sets, workloads throughout the business, no matter where they are. Not surprisingly, then, zero trust security has emerged as the new normal of cybersecurity. And this is fact. In fact, one of the major manufacturing and insurance company that I met last week clearly said that this was one of the area that they have been not focusing, but post pandemic, it became one of the more relevant topics for the boardroom discussions. And they are investing heavily in this space. So IBM Zero Trust gives our customers not only the flexibility to a granular level, but in managing the securing employees, contractors, suppliers, and partners and workloads. Zero Trust also plays an important role in digital transformation journey to our customers where they give the customers a seamless experience. This is amazing. One of the banks in West, they've adopted this, and the challenges today was to make sure that whenever a customer comes onto their platform using a browser, and then they subsequently move to a mobile platform, the experience should be seamless. And that is where we help our customers to embark onto this journey. And that is where Zero Trust plays an important role there. So now this is the gist that I wanted to present so that we all understand what we are going into in 2022. Now, during the course of the event, you will see how our partners are working to put Zero Trust and XDR into action for our enterprises. I would like to end this by saying ecosystem is a central to our growth strategy. So we continue to invest in helping our partners ramp up the market leading skills and to cultivate partner success. With that, I thank you all. With that, I would like to hand it over back to Kavya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhatkal, for sharing your perspectives and some very useful and pertinent points, as well as experiences with our audience, which now has swelled to over 500 people. Well, it just shows that more and more people are really keen and interested to join such conversations. So, on that note, it's time to conclude the keynote as we see that it was quick, engaging, and yet thoughtful. I hope you got some relevant insights from the points that Mr. Bhatkal raised in his pitch. And with that, let's move forward to the next session. All right, next up is an exciting and an insightful conversation with a seasoned IT leader, Mr. Vikas Bhonsle, Chief Executive Officer at Crayon Software Experts India Private Limited, a focused global partner for IBM Security. As IT environments become increasingly dispersed with the proliferation of devices, users, and technologies, CISOs cite challenges like inability to reduce silos, lack of visibility into application and data assets, and fragmented security infrastructure. To strengthen cyber resiliency, CISOs must take threat management to the next level with a unified and connected approach that provides deeper visibility, automation, and contextual insights across endpoint, network, cloud, and applications. That is exactly what Mr. Vikas Bhonsle will be talking about. This session will be moderated by none other than Mr. Daya Prakash, former CIO, LG Electronics.
Thank you, Kavya. Hello, everyone, and warm welcome to all of you to today's Fireside Chat. The topic is an open and connected approach to threat management. Organizations are spending on cybersecurity, but threat vector continues to outpace corporate outlay. Security attacks are increasing in scale and complexity. Traditional approaches might not be enough. Business need a better approach to handle new InfoSec challenges. An approach which is open, connected, and collaborative. And to discuss this, we have with us our expert guest, Mr. Vikas Bhonsle, CEO of Crayon. Mr. Vikas is the man behind Crayon's metamorphosis from the fastest growing cloud companies into an end-to-end technology solution provider. Welcome, Mr. Vikas.
Thank you, Daya. Thank you so much for the warm welcome.
Thank you so much for joining in us today. Thank you so much. Mr. Vikas, my question to you is, what are you observing as the key cybersecurity implications of digital transformation projects?
It's a very, very broad question, and I'll try and answer it to the most specific sense that I can. So we all know that the pandemic has given rise to a massive surge in digital transformation projects. And whilst there has been a very clear strategic priority to go digital, unfortunately, there has been no such strategic priority to look at cybersecurity. Now, any company or any business that uses technology today is definitely exposed to security risks. And the irony is that if you look at digital transformation, people say that if you're not going to digitally transform your business, you're going to fall behind. And if you are going to go and digitally transform your business, then you're going to be exposed to a massive security risk. And that's what's been happening, very honestly. If you see the last 2 years in very specific, absolutely coinciding with the digital transformation wave across the globe, there has been a massive increase and massive surge in threats across. And I think there are a number of reasons for that. So let me try and speak about each one of them. The first thing that happened when the pandemic struck and COVID struck was we said, we're going to kind of bottle down and we're going to work from home. So everybody said, no coming to offices. Offices are sealed. You work from wherever you are. And we all know that in the last 2 years, it was not like working from home. Somebody was working from home. Somebody was working from a cafe. Somebody was working on a staycation. I know people who went and stayed in Goa for 2 months working from there. Somebody was working from villages. So essentially, the security left the four confines of your office walls. And they were exposed to a much larger attack surface, right? Because people were working and the number of entry points for vulnerabilities to creep into our infrastructure were increased. As a result of which, the need to monitor became pretty high, right? Because you're seeing access points everywhere. So how do you kind of monitor this? There are so many blind spots. There are issues in visibility because you really don't know what's happening. And so what some people did was that they started investing in security tools. And right, there is not one silver bullet that answers all questions. So for a specific Trojan, there is one good tool. For something as another malware, there is another tool. For a DDoS attack, there is another tool. And organizations started to having a proliferation of tools. 20, 50 is what statistic tells me. There were smaller organizations who did not install in tools at all. And that's a different story altogether. And I'll touch upon that sometime later, hopefully, during the course of this dialogue. And so there was a massive issue on tools. And that gave rise to silos. That gave rise to fragmented security infrastructure. That gave rise to issues in manpower, because how many people are we going to get? It's a massive problem today. Everybody knows today there's a huge talent war. Skills are very scarce. And if you're going to have 20, 50 tools, how are you going to manage all of those tools? So that, again, became a large problem. And with tools, the visibility to applications, data assets, that went out of the window. And then, cloud is the foundation of all digital transformation projects. What people missed during the entire episode was cloud is a shared responsibility security model. And they completely failed to factor that in. And as a result of this, there has been a massive surge in the cybersecurity cases across enterprises because of digital transformation.
Right. I mean, you touched upon several aspects of digital transformation, the agility that it brought to the businesses, and at the same time, the challenges with regards to the cybersecurity, the threat landscape and all that, right? Especially, you spoke about perimeterless kind of, working, where you enable your workforce for remote working and all that, and opening those many gates to kind of, the people who could kind of potentially create threats, right? So
that's true.
Right. So, I mean, quite a valid this thing, statement that you made. Now, my next question to you is that you've spoken about quite a few challenges, very pertinent challenges, and organizations obviously need to think about it proactively. But in your mind, what would be your views on how these challenges that you highlighted above can be addressed, right? Some of the best practices, if you would like to share with us.
Yeah. Again, as you know, Daya, you've been also managing some of these issues, I would assume. It's a very difficult space to address, right? It's huge, it's humongous in its scope and its deliverables, but I'll try and make a simple attempt. So we do a lot of security workshop as part of our consulting practice. So we go to organizations of different sizes and we start talking about how do you have a very good security posture? What are the key do's and don'ts? And the picture is very, very grim. Most organizations don't have a formal cybersecurity strategy at all. And this is not only about small organizations, this is even mid-size, even some large corporations, right? They simply are oblivious to the fact that there is a hacker attack happening every 40 seconds. They're oblivious to the fact that there are only two types of organizations. One which has faced a hack and one which has faced a hack and they do not know that they are hacked, right? So there is no other third organization here, right? So this whole paradigm of security and operational resilience is lost on a lot of enterprises. And that is something which is very concerning. So if I were to talk about, what would be my few pieces of advice, one is to start with a very simple strategy. The strategy has to be the starting point, which actually means you need to have a framework, a broad idea. What are the goals that you want, right? What are the investments that you're going to make? What are your soft spots? What is your risk appetite? Where are your vulnerabilities? Is third parties that you use, your outsourcing parties, are they your vulnerabilities? What are your vulnerabilities and soft spots? And what are you going to monitor and contain this threat? So that has to be, a well-defined strategy, a well-defined framework has to be the starting point. Now, investment in tools and technologies is not the answer. That's not going to prevent malware, right? It's about education. It's about awareness. It's about detecting it early, identifying it and containing it. So I would strongly advocate a very strong incident management process, right? And that could have 4 pillars. The first pillars is what I just spoke to you about, is all about the awareness and the education for users, because the first entry point for any breach is to the employee, whether we like it or not. So it's very simple things, do's and don'ts. How do you build your password? How do you identify a threat? There are so many phishing mails all of us get. I keep getting mails which says, I am your global founder. Please, divert funds into my account. I practically every month I get one email. So we have a very clear reporting process. It has to get reported and who it should get reported to. So, educating the users, ensuring that it reports that particular breach and to who it reports is clearly one. Second is proactive management. And you spoke about proactive versus reactive some time back. It is about proactive. The traditional approach was when something hits you, solve it. That doesn't work today. Today, we need proactive monitoring. So need to have systems in place which are proactively monitoring what's happening. The third is, of course, tools and technologies that will detect and prevent the malware. And the fourth is a process that will quickly resolve these issues, right? Sure. So these are very clearly a very, very strong and a robust incident management process. It has to become a board priority. It has to be a CEO board priority. But ultimately, when you really start looking at the entire security landscape that people are trying to build, and building on my response to the first question, essentially, you will be faced with a disparate amount of tools and data sources and all of those things floating in your environment. What you require is a very open and a connected platform that will bring together everything and provide you high levels of visibility, high levels of identity, and it will provide you security, automated responses that will take your responses to the threat to an altogether different level. And that would be my piece of advice.
Yeah, I think very valid point. You've touched upon 3 aspects. You've spoken about how to effectively deal with this threat landscape is not just you be strong on one aspect, which is technology, but it is more to do with people, process, technology, right? So
That's true.
Very well said on that. There are two things that from this discussion I'm having in my mind, and I'm just trying to phrase my next question to you, which is one, you spoke about shared responsibility when it comes to cloud adoption, because many a times or majority of a time when we talk about digital transformation and the scales of the transformation, was not possible without cloud adoption, right? And so that becomes the de facto. When it becomes de facto, you spoke about shared responsibilities out there. So that's one aspect that I would like to kind of get your answer on. The second aspect, you spoke about tools and tools which are offered by multiple organizations, right? In today, but I think at this point of time, what I would like to understand from you is keeping these two things in mind, right? And if you really have to look at the whole security landscape threat perspective in mind, in order to kind of overcome these challenges and emerge as a winner, right? I mean, what is it that between, let's say, Crayon and IBM Security, right? Is the partnership bringing in the value that, or building that value that was not possible by either party alone, right? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so these are, I guess, two separate questions. So when I talk about shared responsibility model is, in my experience, what I've seen is often many times the moment you put your workloads onto the cloud, there is a very increasing belief that the security provided by the public cloud providers or the hyperscalers is extremely robust, which is true to a large extent. But there is a certain amount or a large amount of control that you exercise on your infrastructure, on your application, and you know what's going on. So it is essentially sitting with the cloud service provider and deciding what aspects of your overall infrastructure or your ecosystem will be managed by them versus you. What are your responsibilities? Where do you draw a line between you managing it versus the cloud guy managing it? Depending on what kind of a engagement model you have with the cloud provider. I think that's very, very critical and important. And I have seen that the best model to use when you are looking at security is using some of the cloud native tools offered by the cloud service providers, and then building on some other tools, third-party tools that you have, and having a combination of both, which of course requires you to work with vendors like a Crayon, so to say, and build on the relationships that we have with IBM. And that now is my segue to the response on the IBM Crayon partnership. And this is a global partnership. It's a big partnership. We are scaling resources across the globe. We are offering our go-to-market. We are increasing our go-to-market offerings and covering more and more enterprises across the globe within the security offering. And to your point again about what's the shared model, there are a couple of things that we are doing with them. One is this whole partnership on Cloud Pak for Security, which is obviously a containerized solution based on Linux. So what happens there is you bring in all these disparate tools and data sources, and you are in a position hence to uncover threats proactively, which helps you be in a better position and helps you adopt a better security posture because you are in a better position to assess the risk. There is a certain level or a very high level of orchestration and automation built in when we give responses, security responses to a particular breach. So that provides you agility that you spoke about. That provides you productivity because you are essentially releasing your employees from responding because the responses are highly automated, right? And as a result, there is, with the shared responsibility that there is something or a large part that responsibility taken by the platform itself, which is providing better visibility, better detection, automation of responses. And then there is, of course, a little bit of what you will do by bringing in a very specific workload-specific tools and in combination work and provide a very, very robust security posture to your organization. We are building a security, a SOC, based on what I just spoke about on the Cloud Pak for Security, and that's going to go live hopefully within the next 2 months. So these are two very big opportunities for us from an Crayon IBM relationship, and we've seen tremendous amount of success because the market is extremely underserved, and a huge risk to breaches and threats and loss of financial muscle, of equity, of branding. There is a lot to be done in this area there. And I do believe that what we've been able to do with IBM in the last 1 year, this is setting us up nicely to take this relationship to the next level, especially from a security standpoint.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I can clearly see, the kind of value being generated through this partnership and its impact on the enterprises, which are at any stage of adoption, be it, where they are planning to adopt versus they are already in the journey to the advance. I'm pretty sure that this is going to bring value to almost all segments or all kind of enterprises. So thank you so much, Mr. Vikas. Thank you so much.
Now that turned out to be a very, very insightful session indeed. Thank you very much, Vikas, for your perspectives and also again sharing some very important touch points there. I'd also like to thank Mr. Daya Prakash for beautifully moderating that fireside chat. I think very aptly we've titled it as Fireside Chat because take a look, it's a very feisty topic we're talking about. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to conclude a part of our event and give you all a 2-minute breather. That's right, you can actually put it to some good use by exploring the booth area. Please remember, it's a 2-minute breather because what we're going to do is actually set the stage for another amazing session coming your way. So take some time off, explore the booths, and also connect one-on-one with your peer members. Go ahead and do that. We'll see you all exactly in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. I do believe that you all managed to grab those 2 minutes and make the most of it. I hope you've also taken a good look at the booths. But on that note, it's time to grab your attention back here inside the main hall and let the conversations continue. Because next up is an exciting conversation with Yugal Hemani, Service Delivery Head, Logic Systech. Logic Systech is an important ecosystem partner for IBM Security in India. And Mr. Yugal is in fact joined by an industry expert, Mr. Suresh Shan, Head Business Information Technology Solutions, Mahindra and Mahindra Finance. You heard from Mr. Bhatkal in the keynote that Zero Trust is no longer just a buzzword. Now here in more detail from Mr. Yugal and Mr. Suresh as to why Zero Trust matters for digital transformation initiatives in order to succeed. This session will be moderated by Kapil Saran from IBM Security Marketing. With that, Kapil, over to you.
Well, thank you, Kavya, for the warm welcome and for keeping us all glued to our seats for the last hour or so. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great event so far. I have learned a lot, and I'm sure you also take back some insights, with you post all the sessions are wrapped up. The focus of this current session is zero trust and its relevance, or dare I say, its necessity for digital transformation initiatives to succeed today. And that is exactly what we'll be discussing today. And I couldn't have asked for a better, you know, team members, better panel to have this discussion with. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Suresh, BFSI Technology Head, Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services. Hello, welcome, sir. And we also have Yugal Hemani, Service Delivery Lead, Logic Systech. Welcome, Yugal.
Hi.
Let me quickly get started with the discussion. And my first question is to you, sir, Dr. Suresh. What are you hearing, about digital transformation projects and the IT and cybersecurity implications of such efforts? Could you share some insights with us, please?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thanks for this opportunity with you all today. It's a pleasure talking to you all. The expectation from the corporate is what so far we are focusing more on the corporate digital. Now the corporate digital is moving towards customer digital, where every individual customer is treated as corporate. So when you try to get along and aligned with similar things and trying to get enabled with them, trying to keep enabling in terms of a smart enterprise, we felt it's more to do with the kind of essential infrastructure and trying to utilize as much as in terms of virtualizations and even getting into the kind of operating systems which we are trying to get as much as towards migrating to the later ones and trying to use as much as on the omni channels through mobility and IoT, keeping the security using the kind of the current jargons which is part of cloud integration, which keeps enough in terms of connecting with us through the available social media. That's what the real connect comes for the customers and the kind of expectation set, and trying to keep ourselves more alert in terms of executing through web presence and trying to utilize as much as, since maximum technology is working from home, we're trying to use the kind of management tools which enables us to keep alert and keep 25/7, which we call it as high availability and the kind of affordability, keeping the green IT efficiency and trying to get transformed and ensure part of the rural still we are keeping business for us a lot more of emotions and less of electronics, trying to get enabled with the customers and trying to get engaged with them and created as much as towards using even community cloud, where we have created a potential formula where earn to pay model will make the customer to earn so that he can pay for us. So that has created a high alarm on more than 2 billion customers trying to utilize that and trying to collaborate and trying to utilize during this last 2 decades and trying to ensure these tougher times like last 2 years using that technology which was very highly useful to the customer and getting engagement to the customers. Back to Mr. Kapil.
Okay, thank you. So if I were to summarize, I think what you essentially mentioned is that customers today are more connected. The world has become more digitally connected because of all that is happening around us. And if I move the discussion towards Yugal, so you heard Dr. Suresh. I think what he was alluding to, what he was trying to summarize is that the world has become more digitally connected, and this, if I may add, has also made the world more vulnerable to cyber attacks. Earlier, a few years ago, firewalls used to be the perimeter, but today, with digital transformation, the move to hybrid cloud infrastructure, relying on network perimeter is no longer sufficient. I'm sure both of you would agree. So Yugal, you work with a lot of CIOs and CISOs. What are you hearing from them about dealing with this challenge, and how does zero trust really fit into this discussion?
Yeah. First of all, good afternoon to all, and thank you for having me over here. So Kapil, yeah, rightly as the and Dr. Suresh also mentioned, and in my view, with what discussions that we have or I have with my set of CIOs or CISOs, I also have came up to the similar kind of discussions with them. See, we deal into lots of banking sector with
lots of banks, be it a cooperative, nationalized, PSUs, and private banks, all sort of banks, and just a year or 2 years back, before all this pandemic and all things happened, most of the banks were having an in-house, what you called as a data center, probably a data, as you rightly said, that everything was inside a perimeter, so securities were in place, everything was happening good. Anything and everything that goes out comes in, heads in check. But now the things have changed drastically with these things coming up in place. Now people have moved from in-house to public to private clouds, and the applications and workloads scattered across the different environments. And at the same time, they need to take care of security. And at the same time, they need to ensure that there are no, loopholes, leakages, wherein the data can get compromised and everything can be in place. And that's where I think, in my view, the zero trust, or we say, and plays a very vital role. And that's where the areas of concern of CIs and CEO, the CISOs are, that keeping in mind the accessibility, eligibility, the agileness of accessing the data, sitting from anywhere, working from any location, and yet it goes to the right person at the right time and right place. That is what is currently is being there, and that's where these zero trust and all the concept eventually has been arised, and people have, I mean, the most of CISOs and CIs, I would say all of them, I would say nearly about more than 52% of people have started looking for them, and they have started understanding that what is zero trust and how we can implement it in the current environment, and this so forth.
No, indeed, summed up very well, Yugal. Actually, you're right. Even though zero trust has been around for over a decade now, as you would know, but it's suddenly starting to gain prominence. It's no longer looked at just another security buzzword, but it's something which is being increasingly talked about. You spoke about your discussion with customers. I'm sure Dr. Suresh would also be contemplating, or maybe already be on that journey. So let me get back to our second question, and that is for you, Dr. Suresh. One of the important byproduct of digital transformation is data. In fact, loads of it. I keep reading statistics about how the amount of data being generated every day is more than what has been ever generated in the history of mankind. So organizations today, because of digital transformation, are dealing with loads of data and multiple formats of data. At the same time, there are a lot of new government compliance requirements that are coming up. We know a couple of years ago GDPR came in, and just recently I know the Indian government is working on personal data protection bill, which is under jurisdiction, and it carries some heavy penalties, for any non-compliance around customer data. So what are your views, Dr. Suresh, on how can zero trust truly help in ensuring your crown jewel, which is your sensitive customer data, can be protected?
So when you say it's zero trust, it's not just only nominating the kind of workforce, or it's getting into the kind of data which is getting out. It's the data which is used even internally, and trying to build trust, not only build the back office, even the functions which we try to use part of it, and trying to define it has enough in terms of control mechanisms, and even trying to get exposed to avoid the data breaches, and getting into the kind of lively transfer in terms of information which is scattered from the beginning. It starts from the customer orientation towards getting into the system and trying to extract as much as towards for a long time. So it starts with data. And again, if you see from the government, that's what government also is realized enough in terms of how we can try to get into the data protection. They created the PDP bill during 2019, where they have emphasized enough in terms of getting into the laws where they can create the kind of privacy information and trying to secure as much as into that, especially when it comes to banking and financial services. They go closer in terms of how to try to create as much as to keep it simple, and trying to create that choice within the controls and compliance, and ensure the kind of practice which we try to say, not only data protection, it's more into the value of the company, how they protect, and trying to create that kind of information shared within the sectors. Even if you see from our perspective, if you have different wing part of automobile, into insurance, into housing, into the different regulators, again stimulating the same part of the data, trying to originate in terms of creating defined exemptions to the government agencies, not only to that individuals, it is to be submitted part of the regulators also. So it's among us in terms of trying to take it up and trying to re-fencing. That's what that ring fencing, which creates enough in terms of information, which tries to create enough in terms of creating the key recommendations, not only just part of the control system, it is into the kind of development of system, into the maintaining and monitoring of the system, into the kind of getting that dedication when trying to create or engage with social media and trying to utilize as much as part of the information with the critical personal data and ensure that how we can take care of the security in the kind of information, part of governance, part of the security in terms of the customer, especially the customer engagement data, which creates enough in terms of within the sector, trying to accommodate in terms of the regulators and defining enough in terms of individual patterns and trying to keep the seamless across and keep live with the kind of scalability and security part of the organization. Back to you, Mr. Kabir.
I think there were a lot of good points that you made, but if I were to pick a couple of them, I think first thing you said, zero trust is not a solution. I think it's a framework, right? It's a and we should not look at it as a solution. And how zero trust essentially addresses what you said, the need for data privacy, or how it protects customer data, is that it never assumes that any user, application, device, or process is trustworthy. Instead, it continuously evaluates someone or something, whether it should have access to that sensitive data, and it does so based on that contextual information. Yugal, we addressed the aspect of data security with the recent response from Dr. Suresh, but as more and more transactions happen online, I think there are some statistics which show that in a couple of years, or maybe 3 to 4 years from now, we'll see almost 1.5 billion transactions digitally, every day. So that means the scale is increasing. At the same time, our customers, the consumers who access those services or do those transactions, are choosing, as per a survey done by IBM Security, are choosing convenience over security, which means they're inviting more risk. So just wanted to understand from you, Yugal, how can zero trust approach help the CIOs and CISOs achieve that fine balance between creating what is a frictionless user experience, but at the same time ensuring all those transactions are secure, the online transactions are secure? Yugal?
Yeah. So as Suresh has just said, that the data happens to be a pivotal, one of the structure when it comes to zero trust. So zero trust is nothing but basically the 7 layers, what we can say in simple language. So data is one of them, networks are there, devices are there, workloads are there. These are the 4-5 things that zero trust works around. Along with that, one should have an monitoring tool, kind of an SIM tool, through which continuous monitoring is done, analysis is done about the traffic, what's going on, what's going out. So having said that, you are rightly there. We are, especially when it comes to India, we are into a transformation phase. We are transforming like anything. We are moving from paper to paperless. We are going everything digital. Every transaction is going digital. There is a huge push from government. RBI is pushing. There is a strong stress on banking sector, financial institutes to go to digital, and 1.4 billion. I may not be surprised to see 2.5 billion to 10 billion.
Yeah.
The numbers are going up like anything. And this will multiply. Eventually, this will multiply with ease of coming. The UPI, the best thing that the government came up. I think we are the first one to bring that unified payment integration solution in India. So I think these are the things which are moving on. These are the things which are enabling the end users. When it comes to I as a consumer, are helping me to make my payments online instantly. Now, when I see the other way around, when I'm sitting around being an service provider end, from a service provider's end, when I see it, it's a mammoth task. It's a mammoth task for kind of financial institute for the banks to ensure that the services are up and running. Not only that, along with that, they are secure. They are going in a very secure way where there are no loopholes, there are no issues with security risk, in spite of having an complex environment where the data is maybe in-house, maybe external, in data center, outside of data center. And that's where we ourselves are complying with or engaging with partners like IBM. IBM has a wonderful product when it comes to managing as well as securing the transactions that happens through digital online payments. And we have been going to a bank along with this applications or the tool or a product, and we've been suggesting to our end customers, and that's what we have been doing. We have done to a couple of my existing customers. We have gone through them. We have shared this, and we have successfully implemented. And that's where, and this is what it is that the CIOs and CISOs are getting some peace of mind. I would not say 100% because it's a long journey. Zero trust is a long journey, and it cannot be achieved overnight. So at least it has been to a level where yes, the payment transactions that are happening through mobile banking, through UPI, through either of the ways from like NEFT, RTGS, all this sort of payments and IMPS, all these are happening through a secure channel. And we've been using extensively to IBM security product. We have implemented in a couple of my customers where it has a multi-locational kind of an environment. Even the data, users, workloads, everything is scattered. And yes, we have achieved that. So I would say, yes, this is the only thing through which we can go. Of course, zero trust, as I said, is a long way, but paving the steps one by one, securing one at a time, transactions where it could lead in huge disaster. It could be a financial penalties from RBI, from the bodies of, the governing bodies which are in there. So securing that in front, it's where we think is the paving of steps. First is to secure the payment gateways, the channels and everything. And that's where we use IBM security products, and we have gone through and implemented it successfully in a couple of banks.
Okay, so I think it was a great response. I think one thing I definitely liked about your response was from going from paper to paperless. It's probably the simplest way to summarize what has happened today. And I also like what you said about zero trust not being a one-stop shop, or it's something that can happen overnight. It can take a lot of time for you to undertake that journey. The best way I've seen somebody summarize this is Forrester. They say zero trust is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So that was also a great point that you validated on. And it's great to hear you talk about how IBM Security and Logic Systech are working together to help customers embark on that zero trust journey. The way I would like to sum it up, and I think you've heard it from Prashant, Bhatkal, our security leader earlier, it's time that enterprises in India go fearless with zero trust. With that, I would like to thank you, Dr. Suresh and Yugal, for taking out the time and sharing your insights, experiences, and learnings with us and with the audience. It has been a great session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kapil.
Thanks for your time. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yugal, and thank you, Suresh, for sharing across some very interesting insights again. And we managed to gather a lot of nuggets of perspectives coming our way. So thank you very much for sharing your experiences with our audience members. So taking those insights forward, we are now moving towards the business end of the event. This next session, I promise, will provide some very contextual insights, especially with our guest speaker, Mr. J.N. Mallikarjuna Rao, CISO, Utkers Small Finance Bank. Mr. Rao will be in an engaging tete-a-tete with Mr. Sameer Saxena from Inspira Enterprises, a key business partner for IBM Security. Now, as the attack surface expands and cyber attacks grow in complexity and scale, organizations need to be constantly vigilant against security breaches, as there are several possible access points. In this scenario, enterprises face several questions, such as how can threat intelligence be leveraged to improvise or elevate the security posture of the enterprise. How can enterprises identify, prioritize, and act on the threats most relevant to them? Or for that matter, how can enterprises proactively manage and respond to security threats at speed? These are some very, very crucial questions, and the experts will now look to answer these questions and more. This session will be moderated by Archie Jackson, Senior Director, Head of IT and Security, Incedo Inc. So with that, let's deep dive into this session coming your way.
Thank you, Kavya. Hello and warm welcome to everyone. Digital transformation has accelerated the need of organizations to take a holistical approach to cybersecurity. As organizations expand and evolve, so does the digital attack surface vectors. Security teams struggle to adapt operations or collaborate cross-functionally to ensure adequate defense measures are there in place. While there is no one-size-fits-all solution, fundamental principle exists that can be applied across a multitude of verticals and easily adapt to your specific enterprise. We will look at utilizing threat intelligence, adopting incident response capabilities to help bridge gaps and increase an organization's security posture. And to discuss this, we got two great panelists, gentlemen with us, Mr. Sameer Saxena, Business Development Head, Cybersecurity and MSSP, Inspira Enterprise India Limited, Mr. Mallikarjun Rao, CISO, Utkers Small Finance Bank. Welcome to the Fireside Chat, Sameer and Mr. Rao. I'll first start off with Mr. Rao. The first question that I would like to go ahead with is, as the attack vectors expand and cyber attacks grow in complex and scale, organizations need to constantly vigilant against security breaches. As there are several possible access points in a scenario, in such scenario, do you face challenges in identifying, understanding, and prioritizing these threats? What are your views, Mr. Rao? Mr. Rao, you are on mute. Sorry.
So, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the chat, Fire Chat. Yes, as you said, attack surface has expanded with the dilution of secured IT architecture of the past. We were having like MZ, DMZ and all with the work from home and cloud adoptions. It is distributed now. We face challenges like lack of visibility on attack surface with these adoptions and implementations. And added to this, organized attacks, commercial attacks like ransomware as a service, advanced network and endpoint attacks are challenges to deal with. And added to this is the lack of incident response capabilities, and the time lag in responding to the incidents has created a big challenge for the industry. There is a depth of skilled resources because businesses have increased in manifold, and it is very difficult to keep pace with the business implementations and digital transformation that is happening. So the common vectors like even phishing, malware, compromised passwords and all, they are there, and we are unable to cope up with these challenges. So these MITM attacks, lack of awareness, lack of email security, which is leading to the phishing attacks, open ports, unpatched software, because these are the basic security controls. But with the adoptions, with the increase in distribution and all, we are unable to even provide for these basic controls. So these are the challenges. And added to this is supply chain risk. Supply chain risk is one major risk because the vendor who is having the security controls quite differently from what your policy prescribes, and you don't have any control over his no visibility on what is happening at his site. So these are the things that are the major challenges, as you said, rightly told. And we need to adopt these zero trust architecture, complexity to be eliminated somehow. With the zero trust, only we can have some visibility, and continuously we have to scan for vulnerabilities. We have to segment the network, and on top of it all, we have to train the employees. Awareness is one major area that is required so that everybody will know his what he has to do it. So this is from my side on the challenges that we face with the increase in attack surface.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. You covered it very precisely, encapsulating it from end to end, from basic attack vectors to the other multitude. Mr. Samir, I'll come on to you, but prior to that, let me just set the right context, which is in the current scenario, let's say, with the generation fifth of attack vectors, which are undetectable, which are zero signatures. And these attack vectors are quite difficult to identify and without which, without threat intelligence, without exploring across different data lakes of threat intel, we would not be able to identify such gaps, such vulnerabilities, such anomalies. And in such scenarios, much beyond and stronger towards prevention, the detection is more prominent, because unless until we are able to detect and identify anomalies, malwares, the prevention couldn't happen. So how can a threat intelligence be leveraged to improvise or elevate or increase the security posture of an organization? In fact, how can organization identify, prioritize, and act upon such threats more relevant to them?
So thanks for having me over here for the Fireside chat, especially, and thanks to IBM. Like you rightly introduced the talk about digital transformation. It has transformed the way organizations are changing thanks to the COVID-19, which struck us in 2020. Now, organizations are embracing this change, adopting to cloud. But one thing, what is successful for any of this adoption is a non-negotiable environment called cybersecurity. We all need to focus on that area. When I talk about cybersecurity, threat intelligence is an essential part of it. Especially when we are seeing with this transformation, the threat horizon has expanded. Now the corporate parameter has actually got blurred, moved away to the home office of the employees. The lack of threat intelligence is leading to more attacks. And it's not just about getting a threat intel from a particular product. You need to have a proper infrastructure, a proper program. You can call it a cyber threat management program, which encapsulates the right processes, the right policy, as well as the right tools and the manpower, the skill sets that you require to manage this threat intelligence, which will, of course, help you in incident response. Let's look at a research. In India, it takes about 239 days on an average to identify a security breach. And out of that, 81 days on an average to contain a security breach. These are huge numbers we are talking about today, right? I mean, how do we reduce these numbers? Just by having a simple SIEM, any type of SIEM won't really help. You need a proper intelligence framework with the right TI feeds, or threat intelligence feeds, be it commercial, open source from the regulator, to be ingested into your environment. It has to be contextualized to your environment specifically, and that's how you would see the noise to be reduced over a period. Like we said, finding needle in the haystack. Threat intelligence is all about that. But a program is required to reduce that noise, ideally. Now, if I go back to the yesteryears, about 300 BC, when Kautilya, who was also known as Chanakya, actually has talked about threat intelligence in those days itself. Now, he talked about perception and knowledge. No, it's basically about how do you perceive the knowledge, the information that you're getting. Are you working on a biased level or as a collective deliberation? So when we get these three different type of threat intelligence coming into your network, into your organization's platform, we have a different viewpoint from other sources as well. Reduce that with our specific to our environment, and that's how it helps in threat intelligence as well as threat hunting. One of the key areas is just having a threat intelligence is again not enough. As part of the threat management program, a threat hunting framework also needs to be adopted. That's the key thing. You need to know what's going to happen to your environment tomorrow. So we work with hypotheses in those areas, to create those scenarios. And lastly, I would say any threat intelligence with a right incident management framework will help in security posture and minimize the loss from security incident.
Thanks, Amir. Thanks, Amir. In fact, very rightly said around the threat intel as well as threat hunting being part and parcel of the entire ecosystem. Well, I'll come on to you again with further use case specific. But before that, let me just create an ideation around it. So from threat intelligence, from the overall orchestrated security perspective. So there may be endpoint security, there may be cloud security, there may be network security, there may be security across different I would say security across different infrastructure, different channels of the ecosystem. Excuse me. Now, basis on that, many a times orchestration of threat intelligence is not given the right strategy or right architecture. Many a times threat intelligence is more looked at from an EDR perspective or an XDR perspective, from applications perspective, from cloud perspective. These aspects are still needing, from what I've read through, these still need a lot of thought processes to orchestrate, to encapsulate across environments. So looking at such scenarios as holistical being of threat intelligence as well as the overall orchestration of solutions, how did Inspira help Utkers Small Finance Bank achieve these goals and proactively manage and respond to security threat at speed?
Right. That's a very good question, Archie. So at Inspira, what we are doing is we also provide a global SOC services of setting up SOC for our clients, whether it's on a captive level or even having a hybrid SOC with, having SOC, the SIEM and other tools on premise, as well as managing the tools from remotely from our SOC, which we have in Mumbai. We have deployed IBM's Cloud Pak for Security, to offer these services through our managed global SOC in Mumbai itself. And Cloud Pak for Security, which is also known as CP4S, gives us that competitive edge to offer comprehensive threat management capability to our clients. Our analyst team are able to work on a unified dashboard with the functionality of a SIEM, SOAR, flow analytics, threat intelligence, and federated search capability, which is offered through the Data Explorer within the CP4S. This basically helps our analysts streamline the workflow, gain larger visibility, increase detection time, or rather reduce detection time, investigate and respond faster to the incidents that we face, what we see across the client's environments today. The platform starts with basically providing a unified visibility, like I just mentioned, without bringing necessary data into the platform. The data resides in where it is. We don't pull out the data from the various sources. Important aspect of this particular CP4S platform is it helps us connect to multitude of threat intelligence sources operationalize those according to the different systems that we have at the client's environment. Also, when we are doing investigation with the particular platform in discussion, there is an automated AI investigation tool which enables us to search across different data sets, cloud seamlessly, and also it helps in connecting with the SOAR capability, wherein we have out-of-the-box playbooks as well, or even we create customized playbooks for the clients based on their specific environment and need, which helps is building up the automation part of the whole workflow service delivery. One of the features that I would like to explore, talk about of CP4S is the Data Explorer, which allows the threat hunters at Inspira to build workflows to do advanced investigations and also reuse these threat hunting capability via the SOAR and case management function that is there. While the threat hunters are focusing on what to hunt, the platform enables them on how to hunt, there because of the AI capability that it has.
Thank you, Samir. Mr. Rao, from your aspect, being in the banking sector here, and your past experience across different companies as well, from bank, especially from financial and banking sector, there are a lot of compliances and a lot of challenges around adhering to compliance measures. A lot of measures comes from the government, which are to be complied, a lot of rules around those, plus making sure the time to response. I guess there has been some guidelines around time to response that should be notified, the certain and all of those. So in the entire ecosystem, how does, from your aspect, Inspira blends into the service agreements where those manages with the compliance guidelines that you follow, and how versus not having a threat intelligence platform, not having the state-of-art next-gen security solutions. What has been the transformation journey, as well as how you've been able to achieve such compliances measures at your bank?
Yeah, threat intelligence and the incident response in time are the main challenges for the industry now, even government and also as well as, unless the threat intelligence is coupled with automated responses in place, we will not be able to respond to the incidents, and we will face the alert fatigue immediately, because a lot of alerts are there. MTTR we cannot achieve, and on top of it we have compliances, RBA compliances. We have service level agreements with partners, wherein there will be some stipulations to achieve the incident response within such and such time. So when you divide these incidents into minor and major, so minor incidents, yes, they are a noise actually. If they can be automated, that is best. The SOAR is one area where we could achieve that, and we can prioritize and concentrate on major issues wherein it really matters and materialize. So which can lead into systemic attacks, and which will be of more risk to my bank. So SOAR is one area where we automate, because manual incident response is rarely feasible. It is rarely feasible. Nobody can do security analysis. It takes a lot of time in even one investigation. We face this in case where when we tackle the major incidents. Major incidents manually we will tackle. That time actually integration between people, process and the security infrastructure is a big issue, because IT is separate, IS is separate, audit is separate. We have to bring together these people. First of all, we have to make them understand this CSIRT, Cybersecurity Incident Response Team. First of all, they have to understand what it is. So there actually automated threat intelligence and automated response are very much useful, very much. I think still they have to be developed much more, because as he said, this is average is some incidents average is 239 days, some incidents 80 days. It is too much actually. It is too much. wherein you have to achieve that. You have to, because if ransomware is there, you have to immediately attend to that and respond to that. Otherwise, your business will be down. So because of the obsolescence of hardware, software, your infrastructure and all, so OEMs coming out with a lot of patches and all, you cannot keep pace with that. So you should have separate monitoring structure which is automated. So wherein this SOAR will come, you will have automated application of IOCs onto your firewall, automated forensic investigations. These things, malware, when malware attacks, my SOAR should immediately disconnect the infected system, or any such, not only SOAR, any such automated response. So it is very much required. Still, it is it is useful, but more development is required in this regard.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Summarizing and summing this great conversation. A lot of enlightening thoughts, a lot of takeaways for all our viewers. If you look at from not only, if you are from a banking sector in our viewers, there's definitely a lot of excessive takeaways. However, even for the other sectors overall, as a security professional, there are not so many aspects that have been enlightened in this conversation today, especially around risk assessment, especially around ecosystem management, looking from orchestration in a holistical view. So from today's reality means that the organization need to be constantly vigilant against security breaches, and having a robust incident response plan in place is excessively vital. A proactive approach that strategizes before, during, and after potential breach enables your organization to make the most informed decisions to defeat them. To minimize the revenue loss of a security incident, you need a comprehensive view that integrates security threat intelligence, incident response, and remediation. So with that, I sincerely thank Mr. Samir and Mr. Rao for joining us. It has been a pleasure to host you today. Back to you, Kavya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, well, it looks like we've managed to gather some very, very important thoughts again from all of our speakers. So thank you indeed for joining us. Well, it looks like we managed to actually incorporate a lot of takeaways from each of these sessions. With that, what we're going to do now is that, considering that we've been absorbing so much, we're going to take a quick 2-minute breather again. And I think we all need that. We all need that to not just absorb what we have learned, but also just in order to sort of understand where it can take us forward. And most importantly, for all of you to connect with each other on the platform. Please do go ahead and connect on the booths. At the same time, please schedule your one-on-one meetings. Take that quick breather and come back again, because the sessions will only continue from here. So on that note, see you really soon in 2 minutes. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last session of the day. You heard our experts talk about key cybersecurity challenges of today and how Zero Trust, XDR, SOC modernization solutions can address those challenges. This session, however, will focus on what 2022 has in store from a cybersecurity standpoint. And to have this discussion, I am indeed delighted that we have the leadership representation from key IBM security partner ecosystem. We will be joined by Mr. Rajesh Tadani, Executive Director, Digital Transformation and Services, Crayon Software, Mr. Dhirendra Srivastava, Vice President, Inspira Enterprise India, Mr. Devarshi Butch, CEO, Logic Systech, and Mr. Anshul Goyal, Business Development Manager, BM Infotrade. And this session will be moderated by Kiran Rajshekhar, Associate Director, Partner Ecosystem, IBM Software. So on that note, it's time to get started with the last session for the day. Here we go.
So thank you, Kavya, for the warm welcome and kind introduction. It's been an enthralling 75 minutes so far, and we're on the home run for today's Security Summit. I'm sure it's been a very rewarding investment of your time. And I promise that the next couple of minutes will end your day with a bang. The next 20 minutes, we are going to have an open floor with our business partners on how they are addressing and rising up to the client challenges. Before that, I take this privilege to introduce all of you to our elite panelists. So we have on the panel Mr. Rajesh Tadani, Executive Director, Digital Transformation and Services from Crayon. Next on the panel, we have Mr. Dhirendra Srivastava, Vice President from Inspira. Then we have Mr. Anshul Goyal, Business Development Manager, BM Infotrade, and Devarshi Butch, Head of Logic Systech. Thank you, all of you, for joining this panel discussion today. So let me open this up for discussion. Rajesh, let me start with you. What are the key trends you are seeing that is evolving in the cybersecurity space?
So, am I audible?
Yes, Rajesh, you are. Go ahead, please.
So, I would say, Kiran, intelligence around threat monitoring and secure and response, typically solutions around SIEM, I think are gaining momentum. And of course, the XDR, which Prashant spoke about.
Okay. So, you said threat monitoring, XDR, and there was one more point that you mentioned, Rajesh.
I was mentioning intelligence around threat monitoring.
Okay, intelligence around threat monitoring. Okay. Can you please elaborate on what do you mean by intelligence around threat monitoring?
So, Kiran, what is happening is it's becoming extremely important for the enterprises to understand what kind of threats are coming in. Right? So, prioritization of the threat is becoming extremely important.
Okay.
Understanding of the environment itself is very, very complex today, right? And hence, integration of this entire environment, understanding what threats are coming, prioritizing those threats, everything is becoming a challenge today. Right?
Okay.
And that's the reason intelligence around threat monitoring is extremely important.
Okay, if I summarize what you told, Rajesh, you're primarily saying that there are enough tools available in the market. However, it is not giving opportunity for the CISO of an organization to prioritize what is the threat that they have to address first, right?
No,
it's
absolutely.
The intelligence.
Absolutely, Kiran. That is exactly what I'm trying to say. So if you look at a CISO or a CIO today, they are absolutely challenged on the complex environment that exists, right? I mean, they have to manage hybrid, they have to manage cloud, they have to manage multiple tools. So there is no single tool or an umbrella where these CIOs can actually sleep well at night, right? So that's become a challenge, especially post-COVID, while everybody's on the endpoint security today, right? These challenges are definitely troubling the CIOs and the CXOs,
Yeah, I think this perfectly aligns with what we heard this morning, Rajesh, in terms of plethora of tools available in the market. However, they are not giving the required visibility to the CISO, which is where I think IBM, with its new acquisition, is providing a secure platform for enterprises to adopt.
Absolutely, Kiran, and hence we are pretty well integrated with IBM on that particular solution as well. We are talking to customers around that solution, and believe you me, it's almost like a blessing in disguise for a lot of customers to look at this solution.
Okay, fabulous. Dhirendra, what about you? What are the trends that you are seeing in the market?
Thanks, Kiran. I think Rajesh and you tried to touch upon these points. I think one of the biggest issues which the CISOs today are looking at is around compliance, around visibility, and around response. There are multiple tools which are available, and I would say, they're all custom built. And while they are great as a standalone tool, but today because of the complex environment and because of the speed of digital transformation, we have a environment which is hybrid, which is multi-cloud, where people are working from home. So how does an organization look at compliance? That's a large challenge for all the CISOs. Since the environment is widespread, how do we get visibility across the environment? And of course, if there are some event or incidents which are happening, how do you quickly respond to that? So these are the three areas around which I think I am seeing all the solutions which are getting tuned to. And typically, platforms like IBM, they help our customers bring in solutions around all the areas, whether it is compliance, visibility, or response. So that's the trend I'm seeing. More and more CISOs and more CXOs are looking at not only identifying but also to responding to these threats and looking at automating these threats, automating these responses on the threats. So that's one trend which I've observed in the market.
Okay, so Dhirendra, I noticed that you brought in a new element into the discussion, which is about compliance. So can you help us understand what you're hearing in the market? Is it a regulatory compliance you're talking about, or an internal audit compliance? What exactly you mean by that?
So as the organizations are becoming more and more data driven, and there is a accelerated pace of digital transformation, that means the business parameters are available more on a digital platform. Now, with that, you're also opening the risks of them getting compromised. So what I've observed is more and more people are adopting the frameworks like ISO, like PCI DSS, HIPAA. Now, obviously, all these frameworks are a guideline in which you can maintain the data integrity. Most of these compliances talk about data integrity, which is becoming business critical. Now, it is absolutely impossible for somebody to kind of look at these data integrity and compliances on a manual form. And even if you have got multiple tools, they would be giving some sort of compliance, in a partial manner. For example, if you are a GDPR compliant company, say DLP does one part of it, but does it give you a overview? Does it give you a full overview of how compliant you are? That's a key challenge, and that's where platforms like IBM Curator, they are greatly helpful, where you can look at compliance reports. You can tune your platform to kind of build reports around compliance and data integrity.
Fabulous, Dhirendra. I think you have given a different perspective to our audience by bringing in the compliance and how important it is for the CISO or the infra head in an organization to check whether they are compliant to certain regulations that have been put together. So thank you for bringing in.
I may add one more line, Kiran. Since cybersecurity is becoming more and more a board level discussion, where board is not concerned about which laptop got hacked or how many tickets. They are looking at more from the risk point of view.
Correct.
And when you talk about risk, a compliance can help you quantify or contain the risk. And
absolutely,
CISO a tool to present it to board in terms of how you are in your cybersecurity maturity model.
Understood. Thank you, Dhirendra. Moving on, Devarshi, what's your view on that?
I agree with the other two gentlemen, but let me put my views out here. A simple example, the transactions have gone almost 3 times in India since COVID hit us. So in last almost 18 months, the number of digital transactions has gone up by 3-fold. And it is expected it is going to go up because the habits have turned into the business. It is for both the ends, buyer as well as seller. India is in particular is looking at digitization. Notebandi was one of the act of government which has increased the digitization, and I personally feel that the transactions are going to be up almost 17% year on year as an additional, both in terms of value as well as count. If you look at some of the RBI guidelines where they increase the transactions on 24/7, so that means that one could probably do an NEFT or RTGS midnight when business demands that happens. Plus the SWIFT, and globally it is a practice where everything is getting digital and all the payments and other things have to go online. A simple example which I would like to probably give it to the forum and audience is toll. If you don't have the toll on digital way, you pay double. I think that's something which is important for one to know and adhere to, that you have toll available on your vehicle, because that's something which has gone up. Of course, there are going to be queue management, there are going to be compliance issue, there are going to be RBI audits, IFTA's audits, SEBI audits, which are also causing a lot of disturbance to majority of CISO as well as CTO.
Okay.
So in my view, cybersecurity is something which is going to be, and typical framework is like earlier days, there used to be an security person outside ATM, but then the cost of ATM money which is there is higher than the cost of other operations, and eventually they started putting cameras and put the framework of auditing ATM. If there's a theft, there'll be an alarm going. There are cameras which are capturing the photos and all. Similarly, in this case also, as I foresee that there'll be an rapid growth towards controlling the theft. And as earlier panelists said, that proactive monitoring and management is something which will be important from security perspective. QRadar is one such product which can probably help monitoring this, followed by Guardian, which also can do database theft. Because while there will be theft from outside, I also foresee that there'll be ignorance theft from within. The backup is being taken and probably left in open area. So a lot of activities are happening at governance level, which will help this business for customers as well as users to go up. And if total framework is required for safety of payer as well as payee to make sure that the money goes in right direction at right time. So in my view, I think it's a very critical element which one has to look at, and IBM and we people can help end customer to make sure that they are secured, safe, and they can grow their business using technologies like QRadar from IBM.
Absolutely, Devarshi. So as you said, the amount of purchases that are happening online or the UPI transactions we are doing have significantly increased, at least for the last 18 months. And it is only going to increase, right? Because our continued hybrid model will definitely continue, and both digital and the brick and mortar world will coexist. as we look at the market today. But what's your view on, so SEBI is also talking about reducing the settlement time, which is N+2 today, if I'm not wrong, to N+1. So would that also create some new opportunities for us? What's your view on that?
100% it will create, because the SEBI is also looking at their own framework to be given to all the customers. The same as the RBI, because if you visit RBI site every 3 months, there's an requirement of certain patches or certain points to be covered up by all CISOs. So it's going to increase the security parameters and make sure that people are compliant and one single standard. And the good part of working with IBM is an open standard, global standard, which can integrate with third-party products if required. So I definitely agree with you, Kiran, on the growth path of digitization and the controls by government, which is going to create a single framework for entire banking industry or payment industries. So I think it's a very innovative way in which our government is working to make sure that people are safe within country.
Sure. Thanks for that, Devarshi.
And even NPCI and RBI are also contributing to large level to create this framework.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Devarshi. Anshul, what are your views on this?
Thanks. So the views, currently we have seen the customers, as our earlier friends has also mentioned, going towards the OT as well. So now many of the customers are automating their plant using the technologies like IoTs and sensors and connecting their current operational technology to the IT. So we have seen in the current trends, customers are focusing towards the OT security as well. And as Kiranji, you've also mentioned about the zero trust. So customers in the trending technologies, customers are also focusing to the frameworks like zero trust, where the technologies tell about don't trust, always verify, as well as the new framework which has also been coming to the domain like SASE, which is a secure access service edge, which talks about off cloud, on cloud, off out cloud, and make the access agile from anywhere, anytime, and any device in a secured manner. So that kind of trending frameworks and the technologies we are seeing towards the current market after this pandemic happens.
I like your tagline, Anshul. Don't trust, always verify. Fabulous, fabulous. The entire security story is told in that one sentence. Don't trust, always verify, leading towards zero trust. Fabulous. So slightly shifting gears, Dhirendra, this is for you. While you did tell me from an industry perspective and what the regulators are talking about, I would now want to ask you the security adoption or security requirements. Do you foresee this specific to an industry where it is far more prominent, or you look at this more as a horizontal solution cutting across various verticals? What's your views on that?
So Kiran, cybersecurity always, in my view, it has always started with some of the regulated industries like banking, insurance, But if you see the advent of this cybersecurity, slowly, I think all the industries are adopting to this, because some of the industries are under compliance. Banking, insurance. There is obviously a compliance-driven cybersecurity initiative. Mm-hmm. However, if I look at today, the segments like manufacturing, pharma, IT, ITS, retail, I think everybody has realized that they will have to adopt digital transformation, which essentially means opening their networks to their vendors, customers, partners, and sometimes their competition as well. Mm-hmm. When you are having a scenario where this is for your survival, obviously you will have to keep necessary measures. So the trend which I am seeing is all the industries, the degree can be different, of course, in which you are serious about security. Yeah. But I think all industries across the board, they have started adopting it. And also the current situation in pandemic, like working from home or working from anywhere, has really brought up a lot of cyber security challenge to the organizations. And that has actually, I would say, in a way, forced people to put some of the necessary measures around cybersecurity. So adoption is across the board. The degree can be different, but all industries, I mean, in my view and in my experience, all of them, at least there is awareness and they have started this journey.
Okay, so you're saying it is a horizontal solution applicable to all verticals. Maybe the degree of requirement or the rate of adoption could vary, but it is a necessary platform for all industries in the market. Thank you for that, Dhirendra. Rajesh, question to you. You've been talking to a lot of CXOs and meeting them virtually, at least over the last 18 months. So are there any specific things the CXOs are sharing with you when it comes to cybersecurity?
Let me quote a few days back before the COVID. I was speaking to one of the CXOs, and I will not name any customers here. And we were speaking of business continuity solutions or even BCDR. And the response was, "Kya hoga? Chalta hai." A lot of chalta hai attitude now has got moved to understanding the risks of business, like they were also mentioned, right? So risks of business are definitely the highlight for the CXO today, or the CIO and the CSO. They are extremely worried about cybersecurity risks. They are worried about automation. They're worried about the intelligence around these solutions, right? So this is the feeler that we see now. Now, I think Anshul also mentioned about compliance. We were never speaking about. I think I have been discussing compliance and security with customers for almost like 7 years now. Mm-hmm. The change that we see today is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
So today they understand these risks and they want to talk about this.
Absolutely. I was reading some article, Rajesh, which said CIOs back with the bang, right? So there was, if you rewind back 5 years ago or 10 years ago, a lot of solutions were LOB driven, right? Line of business. However, if you read multiple articles, every CEO went back to the CIO and said, how do you ensure that my business continuity is there, but working from home? I think you touched upon a fabulous point on a business continuity, which the CXOs had to grapple with when the pandemic came about. And now I think most of them at least know how to operate it within the constraints that we all have. Fabulous. I think you led it very well, Rajesh, on that.
Thank you.
Anshul, what are you hearing in the market in your conversations with the CXOs?
Yes. So when we had a word with CIOs and CXOs, the challenge is that cyber threats mainly happen in the dark mode. And second challenges they are highlighting is that now the IT infrastructure is very complex and massive. The customer has both the applications, modernized applications, as well as the legacy applications. So visibility to the IT infrastructure is also a very challenge to them, as well as translating the cybersecurity threats to their senior management is also a challenge, as they are not cyber savvy persons. So that challenges we are seeing when we are having a word with CIOs and CXOs.
Okay, so Anshul, you're primarily saying that while the CIOs are recognizing that there is a need to put in a comprehensive cybersecurity policy, they are still probably the management of some of these organizations have still not recognized the impact of cybersecurity, which is where partners like you and your team would actually help the client understand the value and how it helps them play around with the business risk. So that's what you're looking at.
Correct. Because while explaining the use cases related to the data security and data privacy to the senior management is also a challenge. Nowadays, you can see the data is at the disposal of the employee at their work from home. So now they are talking to their managements for the data security, data privacy, data classification kind of things, so they can protect their company data to leaked out from somewhere.
Okay, great. Devarshi, you deal with a lot of banks and a lot of cooperative banks is what you work with, right? And you and I discussed this a couple of days ago. And while they recognize the challenge, but adoption of this becomes a difficult proposition because of their scale of business. So what's your view on that?
On cooperative banks, especially, there are multiple level of challenges. There's no separation of CIO, CTO, CISO, IT manager. So the major challenge with they have is who's going to own the responsibility. So that's a fundamental question where cooperative banks are coming with. So there are joint responsibilities which they give, and ultimately, so-called IT head or IT manager or general manager IT will take the ownership of safeguarding the data. There are three aspects which I would like to highlight. One is the application. So if you look at cooperative bank, though it's structured, but the investment in cooperative bank has not been so structured because they also at times work with Windows 7 platform where there's no support available from Microsoft, and it's one of the easy tasks for the hackers to get in and hack your data. Two is the application vendors. They are not geared up to give them the support for new application or the legacy applications which are there, because the versions have changed, but many cooperative banks have not changed the version from the earlier ones to the latest one, which are based on browser-based technology and security and things like that. And the third thing is budget. So cooperative banks do not have large budget to invest, and that's the place where I think IBM and partners can work to create a shared model which can go and give them the shared services at a reasonable price on 24/7, and can also assure them that in case if there's any theft or any cybercrime, we will stand by and we'll give you audit reports or all the transaction reports. So cooperative bank is a different story altogether. But large cooperative banks, they have invested in security either through partners like us or technologies which they feel is appropriate. So they are going ahead and making the investment in security, SIEM framework and things like that. Okay. So that's the place where
Devarshi, that new technology consumption models are also coming up, and it is no longer, it's no longer only for those elite customers. It's now cut across all segments of customers beyond the metros and going
absolutely. The other angle is they also want to grow their business, so they are also looking at technologies like IMPS or payment bill payment systems, insurance payments, toll management. Okay, want to get in there. So that's another area, because there's a pressure on increasing business also for cooperative banks. As you rightly mentioned right in the beginning, that that's something which they need to work on. So they have multifold challenges, and they are evolving, and they are probably talking to people like us to guide them, and probably they take the decision based on inputs given by us. Okay. So we play a very critical role in supporting them, as well as to give them the guidelines as to what could be the right way to move forward. And we look at long-term association with those cooperative banks. Sure. So IBM helps us to do that, because both the products of IBM which are there in market could meet their business requirements and security requirements. And the IT manager can sleep well in the night using those products. And we assure them of that, besides what IBM can assure.
Absolutely. So what I've got over the last couple of minutes of discussion is primarily there is infinite amount of opportunities for all of us to address. Now, this brings me to the next interesting point in terms of the readiness of us to address this market opportunity. So Rajesh, over to you in terms of how are you working within your teams to getting them ready to address this infinite amount of opportunity that is there currently from a cybersecurity perspective?
So Kiran, I would say security compliance, comes very naturally to us. It's by design. In fact, right from the time this company was formed way back in 2002, we've been working with customers very closely on their compliance, right? Security and compliance, I would say, from a software perspective. So, if a software is not updated, it's a great cybersecurity risk, right? And we've been dealing with those issues with customers for the last 20 years, I would say. Okay. And while now I look at IBM QRadar and Guardian, they fit absolutely well with the whole perspective of driving these security compliance challenges, right, with the customers. So the teams are absolutely well equipped with the knowledge of how to address this with our customers. And it's only a step forward, with these tools that we have now in our kitty to address those requirements. And of course, customers are extremely happy with, whatever boot camps we have done or the workshops that we would have done with customers. They're extremely happy to see the solutions, which can actually cater, I would say, like an umbrella to the entire ecosystem.
Fabulous. So your past experience around doing compliance for customers is actually turning out to be a sweet spot for you to now scale it up and bring in the cybersecurity discussions to your customers. Fantastic, Rajesh. Dhirendra, what about you, right? So you, in terms of how do you intend to capitalize on the cybersecurity market that is available to us?
Yeah, so Kiran, there are a couple of things actually which are driving business for partners like us along with the OEMs like you. I think there is a huge amount of skill gap in cybersecurity market. Mm-hmm. And whatever skills are available, they are expensive. And while I discussed in my earlier statement, that every organization in some form or shape, they want to kind of strengthen their cybersecurity. So models like pay as you grow or skills on tap, they are becoming very, very important for customers. Mm-hmm. A small customer, a mid-sized customer, a SMB customer, or a large customer, they have the ability to pick and choose in what model they can engage with the OEMs like you and partners like us. So that has been our core focus, to provide quality skills at an affordable price. There's no one size fit all in this market right now, because while you may be very small, but your data is important to your business. If you lose that data, you lose the business. Yes, there is an eagerness from all sides of I would say customers. Now, it is on service providers like us and our friends here. How do we tailor-made this solution to suit our customers' requirement? Like you said, the opportunities are actually infinite. Yeah, everyone needs it. But how well we can develop a model to engage with these customers so that we are able to serve their needs. Obviously, they may have a need, but they may not have unlimited budget. So how do we suit this offering? How do we tailor-make this offering to suit their requirements within what they can afford? Is something which is going to be the next level of discussion with these customers and partners. And I think people like you are also coming up with models like pay as you grow. All this helps us, build a robust business model.
Absolutely. I can't agree more with you, Dhirendra. Skills is the new currency. And I completely accept the fact that there is huge skill gaps in the market, and it is our joint responsibility to ensure we fill in those gaps and give the right kind of solutions to the customers. Thank you for bringing that aspect. Devarshi, over to you. So how are you looking at your readiness to address this market?
Multiple ways. Okay. The first one is internal skill set building activity. So we have nominated a team of people who will go and address to customer, and we have got certification done with the help of IBM and our distributor. So at sales level, we have certified people who can go and talk technology to a certain extent. The second one is the demo and so-called analysis, which we do for customer from the firewall report or activity report. So we have started doing some sampling of the report and give them the input as to what is happening. The third one in which we are looking at going to customer is to give them complete solution, because here we also need to replace some of the legacy hardware that they are using. They also need continuous patch management, because Microsoft is also vulnerable to security. So patch management is one of the important factors for all these banks. And there are audits which are happening through third party. We get engaged on those audit reports, go to customer, understand the pain point and try giving them solution. Solution could be as simple as changing the firewall rule or adding firewall rule or rules, and then making sure that re-audit is certified. We are deeply engaged at multiple layers with internal as well as external consulting team. The people who do VAPT, that's another area where we are engaged. So we work at multiple levels to go to customer and make sure that they get benefited talking to us. And obviously, last but not least, is whenever required, we take help of our channel and the team expert from IBM to go to market together and make sure that we convince end customer for using the technology which IBM provides. So that's the last weapon which we use to kill the competition. So multiple ways in which we definitely go to market to meet customers' requirement to give them peace of mind.
Okay, so you're primarily talking about taking a solution-based approach and not a point product approach.
Absolutely.
You're getting your team to sharpen their weapons in terms of how to address the market opportunities, and you're also leveraging the available expertise outside, both with probably independent consultants as well as IBM themselves supporting you on certain client engagements.
101%, you are right.
Unique, right? And we all know that most of the customers are now looking at solutions and not just a point product, which I'm sure they can read up on Google and know what the product is.
Absolutely.
Anshul, over to you. How is BM InfoTrade addressing the scale required to address this huge opportunity which is in front of us?
Yeah, so I want to mention, like, as our past experience, we have seen the cyber technology is not a pure technology problem. Now it is a people process technology. So we are also, as our panelist members, friends also have mentioned, we are also training our employees for the skills and the certifications from the companies like IBM. And we are, when discussing with the customers, so we are trying to build the SOC solutions from Dell, SOC solutions for them, to give them a log analytical kind of solutions where they can give the pay as you grow model kind of thing. We can analyze these logs, can give them a dynamic reports, and we are focusing on to the technologies on simplification, automation, and integration towards this cyber securities and technologies, as well as we are focusing on to the VAPT with the various kind of customers to know the threats sitting within their environments.
Interesting, Anshul. Similar to your previous punchline that you gave, do not trust, always verify. Cybersecurity is not just a problem of technology. It's not just a problem of people. It's a combination of all of these things, which are together is the cybersecurity issue. Fabulous, fabulous. At the end of this session, I have got immense confidence that we do have among us enough solutions which meets the growing cybersecurity needs. And we also have a very, very strong ecosystem to take it to the market and build the stickiness with the customers on an IBM platform. So the significance of ecosystem in delivering value to customers continues to grow. And IBM continues to evolve to connect with its partners. You would have heard our chairman speaking about the importance of ecosystem and how we will continue to stay invested, continue to stay committed to work with partners, enabling partners and working with them to to co-create, acquire new clients, and drive more wins together. So I would like to take this opportunity to all my panelists for bringing in various perspectives in terms of the available market opportunity and how we can address, and the larger partner community for their commitment and contribution to IBM business. With that, it's back to you, Kavya. Hope you all enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, no wonder they say save the best for the last. What a fabulous session to end the day with. In fact, it was certainly one of my favorites, if I may put it that way. And I'm sure that you also managed to take back some wonderful takeaways and relevant insights from this session. Thank you very much, Kiran, for moderating it so beautifully. And I'd like to thank all our panelists as well for sharing your views. With that, ladies and gentlemen, and all our attendees, it's actually a wrap. But we do believe that it's not over until it's over. And that is why the concluding remarks will be presented by none other than Mrs. Lata Singh, Executive Director, IBM Partner Ecosystem, India, South Asia. So on that note, ma'am, may I kindly request you to please share your word of thanks.
Thank you, Kavya. I must say you're doing a fabulous job, and thank you for keeping the audience engaged. Ladies and gentlemen, the last 2 hours, I hope, were a valuable investment of your precious time. Prashant started with an insightful keynote. He spoke about the 2 critical trends, XDR and Zero Trust. We know during the pandemic, digital acceleration really took a fast-paced adoption by our clients, and people were working not only remotely, but in a hybrid mode. There was more online transactions, the hybrid cloud adoption increased, and manifold rise in ransomware attacks, which resulted in security becoming a critical talk of every CIO, every business owner, and every one of our ecosystem partners. This means that Zero Trust has not only become a word that is talked about, but it's become the new normal of cybersecurity. At the same time, XDR is becoming relevant as there's a need to break down silos and reduce complexity to enhance response time. I love the statement Prashant made, and I think I'm going to really say it in multiple forums. It's time to go fearless with Zero Trust and XDR. I'd like to add that security, along with its partner ecosystem, is geared up to help enterprises become fearless. Vikas from Crayon, our ecosystem partner, and Yugal from Systech added additional points to what Prashant talked about. That is the need to unify and integrate silos, reduce complexities, and overcome a fragmented security infrastructure. Yugal specifically talked about the need to why Zero Trust is so critical in the digital transformation initiatives to succeed. So thank you to both of you. What all of us really love is to hear a client perspective, right? Samir Saxena from Inspira had a fireside chat with J. Malika Arjuna Rao, the CISO of Utkers Small Finance Bank. And they discussed, as the attack surface expands and cyber attacks grow in complexity and scale, how threat intelligence can be leveraged to improve, improvise, and elevate the security posture of the organization. Now, this really becomes a very important discussion point amongst all CISOs in every end client organization. Kiran did a fabulous job of bringing 4 senior leaders from our key security partners, Crayon, Inspira, Systech, and BM Infotrade, to share insights and perspectives on what we can expect in cybersecurity space in 2022. Now, thank you to this entire panel. I know you're close to our heart, but thank you for sharing some of your insights with the audience. I'd really like to summarize by saying IBM Security offers one of the most advanced and integrated portfolios of enterprise security products and services. We remain committed to working closely with our ecosystem partners to develop solutions that can help enterprises align security strategy with business goals, protect enterprises' digital assets, data, and users, manage enterprise defense against growing threats, and modernize enterprise security with an open and connected approach to cybersecurity. As we say at IBM Security, let's put security everywhere to help you thrive in the face of uncertainty. On behalf of IBM and our extended ecosystem, I'd like to thank each one of you who has participated in this forum today. Wishing you all the best, and thank you so much. Have a great day, and more. Have a great year ahead in 2022. Thank you so much.